welcome to the TokenMinds podcast. I am your host, Fritzy, the Senior Content Manager here at TokenMinds, a creative engineering crypto and NFT agency helping businesses all over the world with their blockchain and NFT development, crypto and NFT marketing, and token sales strategy. In this podcast, we will dive into blockchain and talk about relevant topics for businesses and founders. Together with me today is Keith Tan and TokenMinds Chief Marketer Anchor Chen. And today we have our special guest from Famous Foxes Federation. Kindly introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure, yeah, name's Draxxts, one of the co-founders for the Famous Fox Federation. We are a Solana-based NFT project of one of the most trusted brands of builders in the space, and very much looking forward to kind of chatting with you at TokenMinds and kind of jumping into, I guess, a little bit of the mindset to a founder within the NFT.
All right, let's start with kind of like a standard first question here in TokenMinds podcast. Can you please share with us your story on how you first got into NFT and crypto in general?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I love kind of my background story because I think it's the same for people, just depends on like their time frame as to when. So I actually came from the like stock investing world, if you will, and actually got more into the degenerate side of naked calls and puts back in 2016. Did not do that great. However, was really fascinated by a news article that came out for somebody in like a impoverished area where they were just had a news crew coming through and they were panning across people, and someone had a cardboard sign up that had their Bitcoin address written on it. And there was a news follow up to it that apparently that person had raised at the time. This is back in 2016 times, around like 50 grand or so, something to that nature. And just off of them having a cardboard sign with their Bitcoin address written on it and a media camera just going right across them. And I was amazed by that because even in today's standards, it would take very, very long to try to send $50,000 from one person to another, different hoops to jump through, all this kinds of craziness. And so to me, I was like, this is amazing. Like this is going to change, the financial world. And so I was really fascinated by it. And at the time too, I was part of a stock trading Discord, and we had a little bit of a network in there. I DM'd the leader of it, said, hey, I think Bitcoin blockchain stuff could be, the next big thing. And this is late 2016, and I never got a response back. So I ended up buying my first Bitcoins January 12th of 2017. Bitcoin was around 860-ish, 850-ish. Ethereum was $12, just so people have an idea of the time span there. I unfortunately was not of the hold mindset, so bought at 850, sold at like 1200 because a 50% gain in a few months, was just absolutely fantastic. And so basically watched the rally, like we were talking just before we had started the podcast, the rally to almost $20,000 that year. I think it was either early 2018 or late 2017 where, it was just around 20K, and I blown away. I was like, I was ready for it. Like I was in it. Like I just did not have that holder's mindset. I didn't hold a single thing. I just like watched it go crazy. And I was even bummed too, because like some people were talking about, Ethereum at $90. I'm like, I could have bought it at 12. So anyway, so long story short, like that got me just hooked. 2019, the market was really dropped down. I switched my 401k to be like the lowest percentage of my company matched. I met that match with just whatever cryptos I could. And then, the 2021 rally early in the year came on, and it did quite well within, the cryptocurrency area. And at the time too, had started seeing things pop off primarily around CryptoPunks. And so I've heard of CryptoPunks. Back in 2017, they were selling for $50, and I thought people were crazy for spending $50 on a picture. But in early 2021, I was very, very interested. I'm like, there's more to this. There's some reason that people are paying, 8 ETH, 10 ETH for these, JPEGs. So I did a little bit more diving into it. And at the time, that stock trading Discord had finally got in a crypto Discord, 2018 or 2019, something like that. They had branched off to crypto. And then I had made a smaller group of friends within there that kind of did a little bit more degen trading, primarily in like Binance, the Binance chain, BSC coins. And so, I mean, really, that's the long story. But we just really, there's about 12 of us or so that were part of that group, chatted every single day, and had eventually identified that we had a very unique kind of skill set mix between, a few of us that were very interested in possibly creating our own project. We thought that, based off of what everyone else was creating within the NFT ecosystem, that we could do better and we can create something that is meaningful in the space. And that really was where Foxes were born. And so, the idea of Foxes, which I know you might have some questions about that too, we wanted to be different. Every project was coming out was a monkey-based thing, primarily because of Bored Apes. Everyone wanted to have their own kind of monkey project. We didn't want that. We wanted to be something different. And so that's where we really landed on Foxes. There's just a lot of characteristics about Foxes that really, fit with us and fit with the vibe of what we really wanted to create. And so September-ish, 21, we started marketing. We were primarily actually, we were focused on launching as a whole by like October. We wanted to do Solana as our launch, but at that point in time, early September, it was actually quite difficult to get like a launch in on Solana. It was just kind of more like a country club, and people were still trying to figure things out. And so like mints were very complicated. So we started marketing towards ETH, but we had the goal of launching on Solana. And so once we got to like actually I think the second week of September, we completely flipped it, and we saw the opening. We were ready to pivot. We just switched everything over and then started marketing to Solana and had minted out I think October 2nd. We kind of consider October 1st as like our 1 year anniversary that just passed. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit about, I'll say, the backstory of me with crypto, but also with NFTs and Foxes.
Can you tell us more about the journey that you had with Famous Foxes Federation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So as far as the journey goes, we started off as three co-founders, myself, Foxy Dev, and then our artist. And we had around, I'd say like 8 or so like part-time people that were helping us out with partnerships or collaborations and monitoring Discord and all that kind of fun stuff. So we did different levels of marketing, some of which would work today, some of which probably wouldn't work that well today. But primarily, the main goal is to try to get attention for people that exist in the space that you think you can provide value to. I think is probably the most critical thing. And show them what that value is. You might not have the full picture to paint everyone, which, I still think some people kind of miss, our picture at a whole, that what we've been creating. But the most important thing is to get eyes on the project. And so, however you can go about doing it, highly recommend doing it. And so, once you kind of start fostering that community, you're going to have people that come in and go out, and like there's just going to be an ebb and flow to it. For us, it's always about, as long as you can kind of bring more attention in, get more eyes on your project, create more fun things, give benefits, but bigger benefits that what others can't really provide in the space. It's just going to keep people, in your community. And so that's what we've been doing. I think we do it quite well. I think there's a fine balance too for a lot of projects when it comes down to like Twitter and marketing, for being too much hype and not enough like actual stuff. And then other projects that have a lot of stuff, but maybe they're not like the best with marketing. So like there's just different ways that you kind of, at least for Foxes, have grown organically by what we offer versus just trying to be super hypey and trying to catch attention for people or anything along those lines. So that's kind of what I would say, at least a little bit about like our journey for like getting started. As far as Foxes at a whole, what do we offer? We offer a ton. So we have four different collections. We have our Genesis Famous Fox Federation collection, which was the very first one that we had minted, 7,777 pieces. They are in a line art style. We then have 7,777 pixelated foxes, which we call our trans-dimensional foxes. We have 3,000 what are called dens, which is really an NFT gallery, but it's also been kind of gamified into our ecosystem. And then we have, I'm not sure the total amount right now. It's somewhere around 50 as a whole. Famous Fox Federation Friends and Foes, which are collaborations between other artists in the space for creating these like one-off pieces that are of their own specific collection, but that are also gamified into what we do. And the only way to get those, with the exception of one, is to bid on them via an auction style. About every 2 weeks, we've done them every week. We've done them like once a month. It just depends on how many artists we are connected with at the time for how many we can kind of push out. And it's to the highest bidder. So that's how that collection is really created. We were the first to have on-chain staking on Solana. We offer Foxy tokens, so the Genesis collection earns 100 Foxy per day for our staking 1.0, and our pixelated foxes earn 25 Foxy per day. The first utilities that we had, Foxy Swap, which is a peer-to-peer swapping platform, which has kind of been, recently it hasn't been too hot with all the commotion that's really been going on in the ecosystem, primarily because a lot of marketplaces had switched over to an optional or zero royalties market stance. We have on-chain messaging for Ding, for you to be able to send an NFT message to someone else in the form of like a text, almost like an on-chain text message, if you will. We have a minting tool. We have a raffle tool. We have a whitelist and SPL token marketplace. There are just so many different utilities. We have an aggregate sweeper tool, a bulk NFT sending feature for you to be able to send a bunch of NFTs from one wallet to another, which is actually kind of fun because for those of you that were kind of in the space, there was a Slope exploit that had happened a couple of months back. Slope is a wallet for Solana, and there was an exploit in the code where people could actually get access to that specific wallet via like basically have full control over that wallet, and they were getting drained. There were I don't even know how many wallets, thousands if not tens of thousands of wallets got drained at that incident. We actually were able to not only make Foxy send free, where you could send NFTs from one wallet to another free, because we do charge microtransactions for people that aren't holders. We actually built in a contract for that specific period of time where you didn't even have to have Sol in your wallet to send NFTs. So the way it normally works, you have to have that base currency as gas in order to do a transaction. We had made the contract so you could use gas from a different wallet, and we asked for donations. We ourselves donated funds to it, and so people that were exploited via this at this incident were able to safely get their NFTs off those wallets to other wallets, which I thought was pretty awesome. I think at that specific day there was over 75,000 NFTs that were sent in a 24-hour period. But yeah, on top of all of that, those are kind of like the big tools for us. We do have kind of a gamified way of doing staking. So I mentioned our staking 1.0. We have kind of a gamified staking 2.0, which you send foxes out on 6-day missions. And so they come back with what we call fame, which is experience. So your foxes kind of gain levels. And they'll also come back, if it's not a fame-only mission, they'll come back with chests. And then within those chests, we have different prizes, anything from our native token Foxy to Den interior rooms to Solana to NFTs to merch to other projects that have like giveaway type items that they create. And then a couple of other fun items too that we kind of throw in there. So that's like the biggest way that people in our ecosystem end up kind of getting back. Is by doing these missions and getting chests and possibly getting Sol from it. We actually had during our VCs or voice chats, we do them every week on Sunday, midday Sunday. We picked three random people, to get a chest to unlock for free. The first person won 5 Sol just just for being there, and the odds of getting 5 Sol are 0.04%. And I'm the one that opened it up for him, so it was just like stupid lucky. He was like a 1 in 20 chance of getting picked, and then a 1 in 250 chance of getting 5 Sol. So it was just crazy odds, but super fun. And yeah, so I mean that's like most of what we kind of have going on. I know there's a lot that I'm still missing there. We do have a Foxy Mint feature, so you're able to mint an NFT right from our tools with a lot of different options in there, which is pretty awesome. We've partnered with another project which is called Boombox. We have basically a music NFT marketplace. And recently too, we've opened up a commission marketplace for like one-of-one artists or people that just have like an artistic skill that want to offer commissions where people can come in, find the artist, offer them however much USDC for whatever work they're looking to get done, and then it's all transacted on that platform. So some people offer real life paintings or some kind of digital remake on something. Other people offer like art for a full collection and things like that. So it's quite amazing. I mean, just the variety of things you can really create in the space as long as you have the skill set for it. And there's just like the opportunities are endless. It really just comes down to like the skill set that you have to be able to execute on it and the ability for you to kind of reach an audience, of which we have an absolutely amazing community behind us, which is pretty awesome.
Sorry, well, that's quite a story you have right there, and it seems like over time you've really developed expertise on the craft. You've built your own identity in the market, though. You also made mention about community. So, how do you guys maintain engagement to your community? Do you use some sort of like just some other fun stuff that's different than the other companies, or how do you guys do it?
No, a great question. There's a variety of things. So I would say the one thing that's the most engaging for us right now is honestly our missions. The way that we've done a gamified 6-day contract for people going out and having to do a thing every week. People look forward to getting their foxes back on a Saturday afternoon. Opening up chests. Sometimes they'll do group parties where they'll just open a bunch of chests to see if they get lucky that week. And then they get kind of prepped up for what's going to happen, the missions that are coming out mid Sunday. And we have raids too that go out. I forgot to mention raids. You get better chests that just have better rewards to them. And they're more limited. So we had a raid this week where it filled up in 2 minutes. And that was for 100 foxes that had to go into it. So it's just like that level of attention that we just have in our community. We have different like kind of sub DAOs that people kind of really vibe with, some of which are just based off of attributes for our collections. We've got like what's called the Cope DAO. So there's just a Cope hoodie and a Cope hat as based off of a token that we really pre-mint, had kind of like onboarded some people from that ecosystem into Foxes that people vibe with. There is a K-pop alpha group, which is quite funny, but it's what keeps people together. It's very fun to see just the different interests that exist in people and like how much they really just want to spend time here. People just are very comfortable. They just enjoy, the space. They enjoy what we kind of have to offer from a community side. We do 2 updates every week. We send out one as like a heads up of like, here's what's coming for missions, and oh, by the way, these are the items that we've updated. And then we'll do one as well on Sunday to kind of let people know about it. We've implemented recently with a platform called Questive, where we do like Twitter quests. So we basically say, hey, you guys are getting chests on Saturday. Tweet out about it, and everyone that tweets out about it will give you guys an extra 1,000 fame token for you to add more experience to your foxes. So that certainly helps like keep people engaged, but also drive new people in. When someone wins a famous fox and tweets it out, or 10 Sol and tweets it out, like people are going to see, oh, this guy just won 10 Sol, like how do you do that? And then it just brings people in. So that. We have our commission marketplace where we're tweeting out the artists and the work that's being done. That gets tweeted out as well if they're interested in it. So that's going to drive more engagement into us. Our token market, I mean, we have just shy of 600,000 SOL worth of volume on our token market, which we launched like early February. So that alone just brings every project into our website, just because they either have an SPL token or they did a whitelist mint, or there's another one that's coming up that's either has, a whitelist token to it or another SPL token that exists for someone with staking. And our platform, we can verify things quickly. We're amazing with customer service. And, we really care about the ecosystem. I think a lot of people understand that based off of like the fees and such that we charge. It's not like crazy, but it does add up. I mean, once you have 10,000, 20,000, transactions and things happening, I mean, a little bit goes a long way. So there's just a lot of different ways that we really engage with our community and even communities outside of us. Which has kind of just been organic over the year, almost 13 months now of us existing.
By the way, as the chief marketeer, right, in TokenMinds, I'm also curious about, how actually you work on this marketing, right? So very impressive with all those kind of things like your DeFi solution, like staking, and also your future like marketplace plan. But I know that, in this market, NFT market is very a lot of competition here. So it's a lot of so many other projects as well. That's but actually you are now also one of the big best ones in the market. So I'm just want to also get more information. Like, were there any difficulties along the way, and how did you overcome them? Especially also including like post minting, right? It's also very important to keep also the hype and the vibe, right? And also all the plans, right? How to deal with this kind of difficulties?
No, I think it's a fantastic question. I think the one thing to point out there that's going to be different for us compared to a lot of projects is the hype side. We've kind of recognized from early on that with hype comes disappointment over time. Unless a team is legitimately able to deliver on that. We've seen it happen time and time again. And so for us, we did have a couple of like hype moments, primarily around having big volume come in, post mint, just the general excitement that comes with it. However, to your point, competition is rampant. Tons of projects. In our minting days, even for us, it took us about 48 hours or so. I think it was 36 hours total for us to mint out, and that was at a time when some projects were minting out in minutes, so it definitely did create, a little bit of FUD around us. But, we kind of stuck it out and just kind of kept trudging through it, just kind of letting people know what we're up to, what we're planning on doing. Like, we talked a little bit about earlier from like before we started recording, but like a roadmap side of having a decent like vision to it and kind of building along what you're building. But then we just kind of kept stacking on. We kept saying, hey, we can do this thing, so we're just gonna do it, and some people even had told us, that we're bred differently from a marketing side, because we don't build up hype and then do a thing. We do a thing and then say, oh, by the way, we just launched this. And some people are just get like so confused by us doing that. But it really kind of goes back to like the value that we can provide, or we have provided really to the ecosystem, is that we're not dependent on hype. We're as real as it comes from an NFT project side. The one thing I forgot to mention too with Foxy Swap, so that was our first tool that we had launched. We also included a Twitter bot for it, so every Foxy Swap that goes through, it gets tweeted out, and so that way, it's almost recently become a thing where people, not really that recently, but people try to say like who got the better deal, in the swap, because in a swap, you can do up to 6 NFTs in a transaction. So you can trade like 1 for 5, 3 for 3, 2 for 4, 1 for 3, however you want to do it. But you can also include SOL or a few different SPL tokens in that trade. So you can do like a degen ape and like 100 SOL for one of their eggs or something like that. Um, and so it's just been really fun to see a lot of people engage with that organically because it exists. That might not even be boxes, but just because they know the tool exists. And, sometimes those trades seem ridiculous. And we've even had people meme them, which has been absolutely hysterical as well. There's just, I don't know. It's tough to say, from our side, what's been like the most successful. There have been a lot of ways that we've pivoted, but for the most part, we try to always have like our tweets be like consistent about what we're doing, what we've done, kind of the value behind it. And it's never really in a hypey fashion of like, oh, this thing's coming in 3 months, 6 months, a year, we've raised all this crazy capital or anything along those lines. We're all about the building ethos and about providing value to the ecosystem as a whole. And so it does kind of, ultimately does trickle back into our holders at the same time. It might not be these 100x gains and stuff that people imagine, happen in the space, but it certainly, sets us up for a long-term amount of success within the NFT ecosystem, especially on Solana.
So, Drax, you have really shared with us the foundation that you have with Famous Foxes Federation, the whole project. Then I would like to know, moving forward, what are your plans for Famous Foxes?
It's a great question. So there have been quite a few different plans that we're still like kind of building towards, essentially, because we're looking at how is the market going to be in the next year, 5 years down the road. Like what does the space kind of look like? I think two of the bigger areas that are coming up are going to be kind of more metaverse specific, especially in Solana, around how people can interact with it, what the experience is like, how can you kind of elevate that to the next level and provide a platform where people can thrive, in a metaverse environment. And the other one is gaming. There's going to be some kind of a breakthrough with the way games are developed that eventually will be fun, more fun than they have been, and it will kind of onboard, more of a Web2 presence into gaming. So a couple of things, that we're really like working on right now, around like the metaverse side. We have 3D Fox assets created. We're working on refining them so that they're able to be used in metaverses. We have about 5 or so of those that we've kind of handpicked, that we'll probably start with, and then from there expand, as kind of community is really interested in expanding. We have, a platform already set up in Portals, for those of you that are familiar with Portals on Solana. And that's where we've recently, actually, for the past maybe 2 months or so, have done like our voice chats. It's just been a lot more fun to kind of be there physically versus just in a chat room where you're kind of talking to yourself for an extended period of time. So I think that's going to be a pretty big thing, especially from like the ownership side in NFTs and being able to token gate, using that avatar and such in these platforms. It's going to kind of take the PFP version of Twitter to the next level, when now you have a different level of marketing and interest from people that will then hopefully want to use, these characters within a metaverse versus the standard ones that are already created, or eventually, once more and more become popular, but that want to kind of represent your brand. So I think that'll be pretty big. In the gamified staking mechanism and leveling up of foxes, we have also introduced what we refer to them as trait upgrades, but really it's just like different tiers of traits. So I don't know, the total number off the top of my head kind of escapes me. I think it's around 70 or so. We've got about 70, well, let's call it 90. I think it's probably closer to 90 unique traits between the heads and bodies that we've commissioned. Zeno, for anyone that is again familiar with the artist space in Solana. Zeno is a very popular artist in the Solana NFT ecosystem, but he's created different tier upgrades, different tier traits, if you will, for each individual piece. So every single headpiece and body piece have at least 2 different looks to them. For the epic and rare, they have a third one associated to them. So far, we've only released the tier 1. The artwork itself is finalized for all 3 tiers, but there is like modifications that we have to do to make it so it looks clean when it's created. There's no clipping or anything along those lines. We're very strict with that. But at the same time, we have so much other things that we're like maintaining at the same time, so it can just take a little while. Actually, earlier today, I was going through like the full list of pieces to identify what we have to create as like what's called an accessory layer. But anyway, it's kind of boring stuff. But we've only released tier 1 so far. Tier 2 and tier 3 will be coming out in the not so distant future. Tier 2 especially will be coming out in the not so distant future. So definitely looking forward to that, and Fox's kind of being able to obtain tier 2 and do different things with upgrades, and just really trying to find ways in the current market that we can really bring more interest into our project. So like I mentioned, we have our music NFT marketplace. We're still in like a beta phase for that. We're working on a few upgrades for our music marketplace before we really kind of hit it harder. So I think that's going to be pretty huge. And I think the other one too that we're definitely putting some decent effort in right now is our commission marketplace for artists that are interested in kind of getting involved with that. So those are just some efforts that we've launched recently that we're just making sure we kind of do spend time and improve on that platform and make sure that it's a really good experience. So that way, at the end of the day, it does kind of thrive in the current ecosystem that we have.
And lastly, do you have any messages that you would like to share to your community, or maybe individuals that also would want to start out their own NFT?
That's a tricky question. I would say, I would say the one thing is to make sure that you're genuinely passionate about what you want to do with an NFT project. The one thing I would kind of throw out there is that it is a lot of work. I think a lot of people really don't understand how much work is involved with an NFT project. We're fortunate to have a good number of part-time staff that help us out. We're really only 2 people full-time for our project right now. We've got about a dozen or so that are part-time, but then on top of that, we have around 100 like very active community members that step up. So huge shout out to really all of our foxes, all of our no-lifer foxes, all of our foxes that are there, legitimately 90% of their day in Discord. It's absolutely amazing. I love the community. Everything that goes on in there is just, it's just so much fun. It only really even look like a job, for what we do. It's just being so engaging and so involved with people. It's just so much fun, and it's innovative tech. It's not going anywhere. It's going to really change a lot of things. It's just the whole macroeconomic side isn't that fruitful right now. So obviously it's showing people some normal colors that you might not see in a bull market, but you'll certainly see it in a bear market. And I personally think that it's for the best, because at the end of this, we're going to be positioned very well as a whole for our community of thriving, in the next bull market. I wish I kind of had this, in all honesty, in like the 2018, 2019 timeframe, versus kind of me going into it myself. So definitely looking forward to that as well. And, try it out, see what you like, get involved in another project, to whatever capacity you can, even if it's on a volunteering standpoint. Be real with people. I get so many DMs from people that are like, hey, I could be a collab manager, and then the next time they'll message me like, oh, I'm a graphic artist too, and then, oh, by the way, I'm a UI designer. Like, you don't become these things every like week because you watch like a YouTube video. It's like, if you want to be a community moderator, that's great. We don't need one right now. I'm sure there's another project that'll kind of take you under their wing. So that's all I would say. I would say be real and be transparent about like your objectives as a person that wants to work with a project. And as long as they're a legitimate project that is willing to kind of help you and anything along those lines, like there's definitely opportunities to get involved. You don't have to just create a project to create a project.
Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your story about the famous foxes and then about this essentially a vibrant project that you have. Thank you also to my co-host Anchor and Keith, and to our audiences. Be sure to check out our other episodes in Token Minds podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Until the next one, guys.